Hello and welcome to my YouTube channel. Thanks for tuning in today for a card tutorial. I'm going to be jumping in to this first project, and I am showing projects that are part of my Stamp Club projects. My Stamp Club meets monthly, and so these are the projects for August of 2022. So I do have 3 Stamp Club projects plus a bonus club project, and each of the projects will be shown in a separate video. So this is one of the 3, actually the 4 because of the bonus, and as I said, I will film each one of those separately so that you can watch one at a time. So if you are watching and stamping along with me because you have a Stamp Club packet, then let's just go over the parts in your packet that we'll be using for project number 1. So for starters, you're going to have a piece of Orchid Oasis cardstock, and this piece is 5.5 by 11. We're going to do some scoring here in just a moment, so we'll bring that one back in a second. And then I have a smaller piece of Orchid Oasis that is 6 inches by 3 inches. We are also going to score this piece. So at this point, you're just checking your packet to see that you have all of the right pieces that you're going to need. And if you are not stamping along with me with your packet, then you can certainly pull together some products and make the same card that we're making right now. And you can also mix and match with items that you have that maybe are different from the ones that I'm going to be using today. Then you have a piece of white cardstock that is 5.25 by 3 3/4. This is notoriously the piece that I often forget to put in the packets because it's just for the inside of the card. So if you do not have this piece, I put that check mark there so I would remind myself to ask you to check and see if you have this piece. Otherwise, from your stash, grab a piece of white cardstock. All right, that one's 5.25 by 3 3/4. All right, we've got some other pieces here. You're going to need 2 squares of basic white cardstock, and these are 2.5 by 2.5 inches. And I have a rather sizable scrap. I mean, usually a scrap I call like a tiny piece, but this size scrap is going to be for our stamping and then die cutting. All right, then you should have some designer series paper in the Orchid Oasis color. There are 4 strips. They are 1.5 inches by 5 1/4. And I want you to check the measurements of your strips. When I pulled mine out of my pouch to get ready to stamp right now, I realized that I had not trimmed them. They were still 6 inches long because these are from a 6 by 6 pack. So just make sure that yours are 1.5 by 5 1/4, and if you need to trim that 6-inch side down to 5 1/4, you can do that as well. So you have 4 of those pieces. I'm going to be using a alternative pattern, so flowers and then polka dots, flowers and then polka dots. But the other side of the paper is beautiful too, so you can choose which patterns to use. You can even mix and match and use one of each if you feel like doing that. All right, so you've got your 4 pieces of DSP. Then you have 2 pieces of polished pink, and these measure 2 3/4 by 2 3/4 inches. All right, then lastly, I pulled out some scraps. I have a scrap of Orchid Oasis, polished pink, and also Smoky Slate. If you are recreating this project with a different color scheme, you'll just pull scraps of the same cardstock that you used for your base and your other pieces. All right, so we'll get back to those scraps a little bit later too. So the first thing I'm going to do is my scoring. So I'm going to bring in my Simply Scored. And if you're stamping along with me at home, you can grab your Simply Scored tool. Or your Stampin' Trimmer, because you can use that to score as well with the scoring blade. And we're going to start with that large piece of Orchid Oasis. All right, if you want to put the markers in at the top of your Simply Scored, you can do that, which is always super helpful, especially if you're going to make more than one of a project at once. Then you've got all your measurements done the first time and you can go quickly through card 2, 3, 4, etc. So you're going to put those markers at 1 3/4, 3 1/2, 5 1/4, and 7. And we are going to score this piece at those marks. So I'll say that one more time. 1 3/4. These are inches. 1 3/4 inches. 3 1/2 inches. 5 1/4 inches. And 7 inches. All right, and then on that 6 by 3 size piece of Orchid Oasis, we're going to score that right down the middle at 3 inches. So let's do that now, and then we can move our scoring tool out of the way, whichever one you're using. Okay, you're going to want to take your bone folder at this point and just go over all of those score marks so we have nice crisp creases. So there's our small piece. And then this one, this is the way that this is going to accordion fold. I have my largest section here. That first fold is going to fold inwards, and then the next one out, and the next one in, and the last one out. So that's how you end up with your accordion fold. All right, and now what I'm going to do is use my bone folder and just press into each of those folds. So you can turn your paper back and forth to make it easier for you to get at them. I'm going to open this one so I can fold this really good. All right, and give it one last crease. All right, so there we have our base. And again, just so you can see how that opens, you've got an accordion fold. Do you see that? Like so. All right, so that white piece that is the inside will eventually go here. We may want to do some stamping on that, so let's wait on that. And let's go ahead and address these 4 panels right here. Okay, this is where our designer series paper is going to come in. So you can grab your adhesive of choice. I'm going to be using my, my liquid glue. And as I said, on this one, I'm going to use the flowers and the polka dots. This is from a packet of in color background papers, which I really like always getting these that coordinate with the in colors, because anytime I'm trying to piece something together, it's often fast to grab this packet of paper with the colors that already coordinate versus maybe looking through all my 12 by 12 pieces and hoping that the back of one of those is the right color. But that's just what I like to do. So I really like these packets on hand. If you want to have your patterns be a little bit more alternative, you can certainly do that, something like this. Okay, so we're going to start gluing. All right, I've got my first piece, which is the floral pattern. And I'm going to lay it in this first section here. And I'm just kind of eyeballing the bottom border and the top border and the sides to get them as equal as I can just by eyeballing it and press it into place. All right, now we're going to go on to the second panel, and I'm going to use polka dots. As a reminder, during the month of August, SaleABration is still going on. And if you don't already know this, I want to make mention that there are additional items that you can choose as your SaleABration gifts. There are additional $50 level items and $100 level items. So if you've already have the opportunity to earn the things that you really liked from the brochure and there's nothing else in there that you have your eye on, then you will want to make sure that you look at the flyer that shows the additional products that are available as free gifts with SaleABration. In the description of the video, I will put a link so that you can open up that list and see the other things that are available. Okay, and I'm going back to flowers now. You can choose your third design. For the third panel. And then I'll finish with my fourth and last one, the polka dots. At the end of this video, I will show you other cards that were made with this same card design, the same layout, but with different color schemes and with different stamps. We are going to get ready here to move to stamping in just a moment. So let me mention, because I didn't already, that we're going to be using the Hippest Hippos stamp set, which is a SaleABration gift. The stamps are a gift for a $50 purchase. The stamp set is free. And then there's a separate $50 level gift, and that is the coordinating dies that go with them. For our card today, we will be using the stamps and the dies. Now, if you only have the stamps because you earned those and you're still waiting to get the dies, I will give you an option when we get to the point of our card today of what to do about that. All right, if you don't have that stamp set at all and you want to continue stamping along with me, grab something else that's similar. Grab the Counting Sheep set that was a SaleABration set a couple years back, or the goats or the pigs. There's so many cute little animal or critter type sets. Anything that is going to be about the size of our hippo stamp is going to work just great. Okay, so you can go ahead and pull that so you're ready. Okay, I've got my pieces glued onto there, and I'm going to set that aside. We'll continue doing some of our mechanics here, and then we'll get to our stamping. So now I have that Orchid Oasis piece that we have scored and folded in the middle. We're going to attach the polished pink squares to that piece. So that's next. And just line it up the best you can. You've got a little wiggle room if you're using the liquid glue, so you can slide it if you need to, like I just needed to right there. It needed a little bump to the right. Okay, and then the second piece. Okay, so we've got that. Now we're going to do our stamping, and then we'll come back and put the rest of this together. Okay, so I've got that white scrap that I mentioned in the beginning, and I have my hippo stamp. I'm going to be using the one that's the little ballerina, the ballet dancer hippo, and I'm using Memento black ink. And I'm going to need 2 of these. So on the scrap that you have, just make sure that you don't stamp them too close together because you need room to put the die on there. In just a minute, I'm going to show you the option B if you will not be die cutting. Okay, so this is option A if you're going to be die cutting. And you'll need 2 hippos, just spaced apart a little bit so that you can use your dies. Okay, I think that got inked up good enough. All right, now These are going to get colored and cut out with the dies. If you don't have the dies, you could choose to fussy cut, or let me give you a better option B if you don't feel like cutting out with your scissors, and that will be to take your 2 white squares, the 2.5-inch pieces, and to stamp a hippo on each one. This is what I'm going to do with mine. These are going to get die cut and then mounted onto here. But if you don't have the dies, you can go ahead and stamp 1 hippo on this square and 1 on this one. My recommendation is to stamp one of the squares with the hippo pretty much centered, and on the other square, stamp the hippo a little bit over to the left. Okay, so if you don't have the dies, then you're using option B. You're going to go ahead and stamp right onto your white squares. All right, to color these, you have a number of things that you can use. Of course, you can use colored pencils or pens. I'm going to be using my Stampin' Blends. I'll tell you the colors that I'm using, but I also am going to use my gray watercolor pencil. I kind of copied this idea from something I had seen another demonstrator do. I mean, I was pretty settled on the way I have been coloring my hippos, but I wanted to try it and I did like it. So I've been either coloring the little face part with the light petal pink and her tummy the same color, or I've been doing the tummy and the face with light smoky slate and then the darker gray all around. Here's another option if you want, and that's with the colored pencil. So I'm going to use my gray watercolor pencil for the face. So this is even lighter than the light smoky slate Stampin' Blend. So I'm mostly just showing you this to give you another option of how or what colors and what products to use when you're coloring your hippo. All right, so hopefully you can see it's a very, very soft, soft gray. All right, and I'm gonna do the same on the second hippo. Now the watercolor pencils work great if you use them as they're designed and you want to take like a water painter or a damp paintbrush, even a blender pen, and cause that pencil ink to kind of blend or to give you that watercolor look. But I'm not going to do that on this. I'm strictly just using it as a coloring tool to get my light gray. All right, so there's the faces done with that pencil. If you like that idea, then have at it. Okay, then I'm going to use, in this case, the light smoky slate to color the rest of the hippo, which is when, alternatively, I would sometimes use the dark if I had done the face with the light. So now I'm able to get a gray all over hippo, but with that lighter face. I'm using the bullet end of my marker only because I wanted to get into that tiny area there. I feel like the arms are pretty small, but there's really no rules when you're coloring with these. Just use the brush marker if that feels better. You can certainly get faster coverage with the brush marker and you just don't get quite the precision. All right, and then I'm also going to go down here. Now, this is kind of funny because, well, I was a dancer a million years ago, and I have a daughter who was a dancer not that long ago. And as I was looking at the hippo, actually, the strings of the ballet shoes would be going over her ankle. So I've way overthought this, can you tell? So I've colored these different ways at different times. But in this case, I'm actually gonna leave the whole shoe, including where the little crisscross ties are, and I'm gonna do those in pink. but technically those little triangles would be gray because they would be skin. Only the toe would be pink. Really? How much more thought do I need on that? All right, and then this part on her body too. So the only parts that I've left are the tummy, the tutu, the little fingernails, so to speak, and the shoes. All right, so we're going to come back with pink and finish those in a minute. Okay, so back to Smoky Slate, Stampin' Blend. This is the light. This hippo also looks really good colored with gray granite. Gray granite is a little bit more of a brown gray, if you can imagine that. It's a little bit more tan gray. And you could even think of it as a warmer gray. And Smoky Slate to me is a cooler gray. This is actually quite relaxing. And it's super quiet in my house right now. Okay, I'm going to leave this area down here like I did because that's her tummy underneath the tutu. That's how I view it anyway. I guess it's a little bit open to interpretation, just like her ankles and ballet slippers. Okay, let's go with that. Then I'm going to take the lighter of my Petal Pink, so Petal Pink Light, and I'll do her tummy, which shows down here under the tutu and above the tutu. Now, in reminding myself of the color scheme that we're using, I'm trying to decide if I want to make the tutu Orchid Oasis or pink. Pink is what was in my mind. And if I was doing this on a live, I would be polling you to ask what you think I should do. I have a different card that I'm going to show you at the end that has a pink tutu. So, oh, the problem is I don't have that color pulled. Okay, give me 2 seconds to see if I can find my Orchid Opulence Stampin' Blend. Orchid Oasis. Oh, did you see what I just did there? A long time ago, we had a color called Orchid Opulence that was like a light lavender. This is Orchid Oasis. I stand corrected. Okay, I dug in my drawer, found it really fast. So I haven't done a purple tutu yet, so we're gonna go for it. Then I'm gonna have to decide about her shoes. I still think I'm gonna do pink ballet shoes. So at this point, everybody is freestyling. You can choose, if you wanted to do the tutu, a color that matches your card scheme, then either use Orchid Oasis or Polished Pink. If you are stamping along with me and you don't have the Stampin' Blends at all, or you don't have those colors, then you can certainly use markers or colored pencils that are going to match the color scheme. And I'm sure it's going to turn out just fine. But since we were freestyling, I wanted to see what this purple tutu looks like, and I kind of like it. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm quite partial to a pink tutu as well, and most of the hippo cards, the ballerina hippo cards, I have put a pink or a white tutu on. So this is good. We're trying something different. All right, now I'm going to use my light polished pink for the ballet slippers. And if you opted for pink for the tutu, you can do that pink. That would look really cute. And this is kind of a bright pink for ballet slippers, but that's okay. It's going to look really good with our polished pink layer that this is going to go on. All right, at this point, I think I'm going to do her little nails back with the petal pink. I'll use the dark petal pink. I don't think the light would hardly show up. So I'm just gonna make those filled in with my dark petal pink. And then you can do this if you like or not. I'm gonna go ahead and put just a little bit of color on her cheeks. I've done that before and then been like, oh man, I shouldn't have done that. You get all the way to that point, but I think that looks cute. Okay, we need to cut these out. Our first option, of course, is going to be the dies. So I'm going to grab my Hippo dies. As I mentioned, the Hippo dies are a free gift with SaleABration. For a $50 order, you can get the dies for free. I know one or two of you already, that's exactly what you have in mind. And kind of a second choice would be to grab some scissors and fussy cut these, or if you stamped them on here, you now have a colored in hippo on this piece and a colored in hippo on this piece. Okay, I'm gonna get my mini Stamp and cut and emboss machine and the plates that I need. Here we go. Okay. I think this is the right die. All of a sudden it looked like it went to something else, but nope, this is hippo. All right, I'm going to get my die lined up right where I want it, and I'm going to hold it in place with just a teeny little piece of Post-it tape. I've talked about Post-it tape a lot, and it works quite well to hold your die in place. And then it peels off the paper as easily as a Post-it note should. Okay, so I've got that right where I want it, and I'm just gonna stick it down with my Post-it, cover it with another plate, and run this through. And then we have to do it one more time with the other hippo. Okay. All right, so I'm gonna pop that one out and carefully peel off the tape as I do it. There we go. And wash and repeat, right? Rinse and repeat. Okay, here we go. Let's line this up. And put this through. All right, now while I've got my Stamp and Cut and Emboss Mini sitting here, I think I'm gonna go ahead and do the other items that I need to die cut, because then I can just set this aside for good. So what you're going to need are a couple of little embellishments cut from the dies. So I'm gonna use hearts and the flowers. And then we also need an umbrella. So let me get the umbrella die. Oh, there it is. Okay, so if I was using my full-size machine, I know that I could do this all at once. Let's see how much I can get done using my mini. All right, I know that I'm going to want a polished pink umbrella. So let me get a scrap of my scrap cut. All right, I just cut that down. And that way I can do my umbrella die. And then I think I want some hearts out of, I'm gonna want pink hearts and purple hearts, to tell you the truth. So I'll have to run this through a second time with some purple. And let's just do the same with flowers. Let's do some polished pink and then also some Orchid Oasis. All right, so you, at this point, you can grab your scraps, decide what you want. You need one umbrella, and then you're gonna need at least 4 flowers and 2 or 3 hearts. All right, so you can decide. Now, if you don't have the dies, then you can either find another die set that you already own or some punches to punch out some hearts and flowers. Those are such common shapes. You're going to be fine with that. I think you'll be able to find something in your stash that works. Okay, so we've got all of my polished pink doodads. And I'm going to do some gray flowers. I don't know why, but I might need them. Oop, that totally slid. Get back over there. Ooh. Do you guys have the mini machine or the full-sized one? I feel like the mini is convenient in its size, but I feel like the large one is easier to use. So I guess both have their purposes, right? Okay, then before I stop cutting things out, let's do some from the Orchid Oasis. And I think I'll do hearts and flowers just so I have them, because I don't know what I'm going to be in the mood for once we go to put this together. So the for sure thing is the umbrella. The hearts and the flowers are all just going to be to add to your card as desired. All right, but that is all of our die cutting. So I can get these out of the way. I got my hearts and my flowers. When you guys come to Stamp Club, we're usually stamping in my front room. I don't have enough space in my stamp studio to have classes in here. It's plenty of space for me, but not to have classes. So this might be something that you've not seen before unless I pulled it out at club, and that's just this little magnetic bowl. This is what I use when I'm working to throw my dies in so that they don't get misplaced as I'm using them. It's really kind of a handy thing. In the description part of the video, I'll put a link to that. I just got it on Amazon, and it's proven to be a really helpful little tool for die cutting. Okay, move that out of the way. All right, so we're going to put our card together now. Oh, here's my umbrella. Look, I'm going to pitch it over there in the magnet. Okay, take your 2 white squares. If you are on option B, they have hippos on them. We're going to stamp some words on them. If you are using the hippo set, you can copy what I'm going to do. I'm going to use You're Always on Point, and that is going to get stamped into this bottom right corner. So if this guy, girl, if this little dancer is already stamped on your card, you can figure out where it fits better. You might have to move it, okay? Ours is not placed yet, so I can put it wherever I want it. All right, so this is gonna go down here. Cute, okay. And then I'm also gonna take my gray marker, going back to my Stampin' Blends. This is Smoky Slate. And I'm just going to make a little shadow underneath where I'm going to put the hippo. So she's going to go, I want her right here in her arabesque with the words showing. So right underneath there, can you see this space right here? Right down here is where I'm going to put a little shadow with my marker. Okay. Easy peasy. Now, if this piece was stamped on there, just either put the little shadow around it or just leave it off completely. This is really going to work because we're going to mount this on with Stampin' Dimensionals. So you can skip that if your hippo is stamped directly onto the white piece. And then this one is also going to be in the same direction. She's more over to the left. And so her little shadow needs to go right about here. Oh, I grabbed the bullet tip. Well, that's okay. It's just a scribble. It doesn't matter, right? Okay, so I'm going to get some Stampin' Dimensionals. And we're going to put this together. Where are my dimensionals? Here we go. All right, on the back of the first hippo, I'm going to use 3 of them. One by the top of her head, a second one there, and one down here. All right, so she is going to go right here over the shadow and arabesque so I can read the words like so. Okay, cute. And let's put this one on in the same manner. Two dimensionals might have been enough, but when in doubt, add an extra one, right? Okay, and then I'm going to put her right there. Okay. Now, the next thing we're going to do is put this into the card the way it's going to go, and then we're going to use all those fun little, or a bunch of those fun little pieces that we die cut to add as extra embellishments. All right, so these white pieces are going to go on here. Whatever adhesive you want to use, you can use your Stampin' Seal or your liquid glue. So I've got adhesive on the back of the white piece, and the one with the words is going to go on the left piece, okay? That's going to be the front of the card. This piece isn't going to be seen until you open the card. It's kind of in the middle. You'll see. I haven't shown you like the finished one. I just jumped right into creating. So even if you saw the still photograph of it, you didn't get to see it, how it's going to open. Oh, now I'm so excited to show you. Remember, we put all those nifty folds into our base. Okay, so the second ballerina is now in place. I like the purple tutu. I'm glad that I kind of went a little rogue. Okay, and I'm sliding my piece into a square, more square position. Thank you, liquid glue. Okay, we're going to get ready to attach this to our card, but I'm going to pause and stamp the inside of the card so that I can put that on here as we're putting this together. So I've set this aside. I'm taking that piece that's 5 1/4 by 3 3/4. I'm going to stamp "Love You a Ton." Goes great with the hippo, right? And in this instance, you do want to aim for about middle or slightly higher than middle. Do not stamp too high or too low. Once the card is together, you'll see why. Okay, so I've got "I love you a ton." And now let's put these pieces together. Ooh, so exciting. Okay. So grab your strongest adhesive. Now, if you have only your liquid glue, that's fine. But if you have some tear and tape or some Seal Plus, grab that. What we're going to do is we're going to flip this over, and I'm going to put my tear and tape. Okay, this goes this way. I'll flip it this way so it's not confusing. And we're going to put tear and tape on the front and the end. Okay, but as I'm tearing this, it's easier for me to tear if I turn it this way. Okay, so don't get confused, because this is where I like to bring my little metal ruler in. I'm laying my tear and tape right along the edge, holding it with my ruler and snapping it to get a nice clean tear. All right, so this is on the back side here, and on this side, same thing. When I first did this card, I actually did 2 rows of the tear and tape. So I did a second one here, and I did a second one here. I don't think it's necessary, so I'm gonna skip that for now. I suppose if you're worried about it, you could put 2 rows. Okay, then I'm gonna peel these backing strips off. And here we go. Look at how fun. This is going to go on the front of my card. Okay, I've got this folded closed. This first piece right here is going to go on the front. I'm gonna line this up on my grid here, just so I can see if it's somewhat straight. And I'm going to actually line it up right on the front edge, like so. Okay, I'm keeping that other side lifted because I did already remove the tape. All right, if you're like a couple seconds behind me and you didn't remove that tape yet, then that's probably even easier for you right now. Okay, then this is going to go in here, and this is going to get attached to right where the spine is, where the card is going to fold. So you're going to skip the hills and the valleys, and it's going to get attached right here. So you can actually, to make it less confusing, just open the card flap here, fold all of the accordion folds, and shut this one down, and it'll be in the perfect spot. So now you've just pinched all those accordion folds together. Watch with this piece. Oh my goodness, it's so nifty. I love it. Okay, so closed, and when it's open, you have her with those wonderful designer series paper backgrounds. Okay, let's put our white piece in, and then let's do some decorating. When I picked my glue up just now, a polished pink heart fell on my lap. I want to make sure I retrieve that. I might want that. Okay, this is going to get lined up on the back panel, the inside back panel of the card. Okay, and then I'm going to flip mine over. A piece of scratch paper here. Just put that down as well. I'm going to flip this over and just press. I don't want to take the chance of getting something that might be on my fingers smudgy on that crisp white piece. So I've flipped that over to make sure that that doesn't happen. Okay, now let's just add our extras. First thing we're going to do is add our umbrella. So go find the piece that you cut out. That is your umbrella. We need to put a dimensional on the back of our umbrella, and I pushed mine aside. Here they are. Okay, if you have a mini dimensional, that would work. I'm out of white minis. They're on my current demonstrator order. So a normal size one just barely fits, so that's fine too. Okay, this is going to go on the front, and she's going to be holding on to it. Now, the only thing that you need to be careful of is that we don't want it hanging off the card, at least not too far. If it is a teeny, teeny bit, that's okay. So I'm going to figure out my placement. Okay, so I've got the dimensional pressed down to hold it. Mine is almost flush with the edge of the card. It's just sticking out a tiny bit. Now, if you need to, I don't think I need to, but I'm going to show you how to do this just in case. You can use one little dab of your liquid glue, and I'm talking little. Okay, I'm going to get mine started on this little scrap. The tiniest dab you can imagine, just right where the handle meets the hippo. Okay, I put the tiniest little dab right there so I can lay the handle down and secure it so it won't be popping up. Okay, and I'm going to come in. I don't know where my my pick tool is. I have this old one that I grabbed. Okay, I'm just holding that in place for a second to give that little liquid glue a chance to grab onto the handle of the umbrella. Okay, so that's adorable. And then we're gonna put 2 hearts right here. Now you can decide, I'm gonna put hearts here and I'm gonna put flowers here. If you want to mix it up or do one of each, 1 and 1, you can do what you want, but I'm gonna put hearts here. So I'm gonna grab this. When the heart die popped out, there were 3 of 3 different sizes. So I'm going to use the largest and the medium. All right, so I want the tiny one way up here in the corner. I'm just going to put a dab of my glue onto the paper because this is so tiny. To try to flip it over, put the glue on it, and then flip it over here is not going to work in my world. So I've flipped that over. My glue is here. And then, oh, let me point this out. Okay, here's my take your pick tool. Okay, on this end of the take your pick tool, you have the putty end, which I know some people really like. I have a hard time using it, and so I am not a fan of that. I like the whole rest of the tool and all the things it can do. But I have this little jewel picker that I got from a craft store. They have them on Amazon, and I will put a link to that as well. This for me is much easier to pick up tiny things with. So you see I've picked up my heart and I'm placing it on my glue, my dot of glue. It wasn't a glue dot, because that would have been these. It was just a dot of glue. Okay, I'm going to do the same thing. So I've got my liquid glue. I'm going to put a dot onto the paper where I want my heart to go. Then I'll just pick it up with my grip, my jewel picker tool. All right, there's a couple of hearts on the front. I chose to use 2 polished pink hearts. Then let's look at how that whole panel just came to life. Then we're going to go to this side and I'm going to use flowers. So I actually have, let's see, I did Orchid Oasis and I did gray flowers. I'm just going to stick to purple for now. So in the same manner, I'm going to put my small, ever so tiny dot of glue onto the cardstock, pick up my small flower, and put it in place. And with the second one, put that one in place. I'm going to turn it so the direction is not the same. This flower is not symmetrical, so I didn't want the petals to be lined up. I just mixed it up a little bit. Cute. And then I want to do something with this too. That's totally optional for you. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to take that smallest pink heart and add it, and I'm going to use one of the gray flowers since I did cut it, die cut it, and I'm going to use a purple. Do I have another purple flower? Ooh, I don't. I really wanted to have another purple flower. Okay, so I have hot pink flowers. I happen to have this color from something else that I did. Okay, I'm going to use this one. Here I go, freestyling again. This is the same color as we colored her belly, which was petal pink. And I have this cut out from a previous project. So when it comes to this, use what you have. You've got some options, use what you have. So here we go. You do want to keep this close to the words. I'm going to show you why, because on one of mine, I almost made a mistake. I think I was able to camouflage it, but let me show you why. Let me move this guy and move this guy. When this is closed, you don't really want anything showing around it. So on one of mine, when I was adding these little extras, I put it up a little bit high and it kind of was peeking out. So just be aware of that if you don't want that to happen. make sure that any embellishing that you do right now, and that was the reason for the words towards the middle too. You didn't want your words up here because then they'd be showing when the card flaps were closed. Did you see that little black ink speck I had? Look at, now it's going to be camouflaged under my flower. Yeah, I had a tiny little black smudge from, which stamp? From this stamp. I caught an edge. And now you can't, you would never know it. Okay, and then the last one is that little gray flower. Oh, I'm glad I cut a couple of gray pieces out. And there we have it. There is our Fun Fold Hippo card. Isn't she just the sweetest thing ever? Oh my goodness. I'm totally in love with this fold too. I'm imagining other things that you can do. And on that note, I did do some different things with it. So let me show you. First of all, let me show you Hippo done in a different color scheme. So here she is in Parakeet Party and Polished Pink. There's that one. And then I also did it in Tahitian Tide. Okay, and so on these ones you can see the pink tutu. Cute. All right, so there were Hippo cards, all the same style of card, just a different color scheme. Then, oh, look, I have matching envelopes that are already ready to go. So that goes with that one. I'm sure I have a Tahitian Tide one here. Yep. Okay, now, then I went off of the Hippo. I went back to a retired SaleABration set called Counting Sheep, and I did the little birthday sheep in a completely different color scheme. All right. Are you getting inspired? Are your wheels turning? Then I used the same color scheme as the sheep, but I went to butterflies. Now this one was actually quite simple, not any extra die cutting. So if you wanted one that was a little bit faster, you could certainly choose your stamps and your dies accordingly. So this one just went together quite quickly. And then I have one more. And this was with, this is not the current pig set, the Happy Birthday Piggy. This is with a retired pig set. And same thing, not a lot of die cut embellishments, but the piggy does have Wink of Stella. So it's very hard to see on camera, but in person, my pigs are very shimmery. So there you have it. And it's a great way to use up some extra DSP that you might have scraps of, since those pieces aren't all of that, aren't that big. All right, so there's an envelope to go with that card and bringing our project back into view for the final time. As I mentioned, this is project 1 of 3 plus a bonus. And I will be putting those videos up separately, and I will link them here in the corner so that as you're watching one, you can jump easily to the others. I would love for you to leave me a thumbs up and or a comment. YouTube loves that, which helps me, and I love it as well. I love hearing from you and also from wherever you're watching from. And I will put the dimensions and all of the products that I used today for this project in the description below, as well as host codes and links to my blog and those Amazon links that I mentioned. The ruler is one of those, the little metal bowl, and also the Post-it tape. So thank you so much for watching, and I will see you when you watch Stamp Club Project number 2. Bye for now.